Recording in progress.
Swamiji, you can unmute and start. Please unmute.
Yeah. Namaste and good evening, everybody. We are some 20 individuals here, and this evening we are questioning our individuality. Somewhere I believe Krishnaji even commented the very word individual seems to have a meaning indivisible. Otherwise, individual means we are divided. You are not me, I am not her, she is not him. We are divided on various lines: gender, language, color of the skin, age. The list is very long. We are divided. But the mystics say all of us are one undivided truth. Therefore, we call it mysticism. It goes beyond our reason. On one hand, in a whole lot of so-called mundane practical scenarios, even two people cannot be together, cannot be one. In organizations, we find everywhere there is ego clash. Two people cannot work together for a good length of time. When they come together as partners and start a company, wow, that's a honeymoon period for them. They are very much cooperative with each other. Pretty soon, as we see in the story of many a company, many a family, many an empire, many institutions, and so on, sometimes very quickly, sometimes over a few years or a few decades, the people who were one split, and they split again. In religions also, they say we are one. Then in a whisper they say, we are one brotherhood if you accept our religion. I am a follower of some God, and if you are a follower of that God, you are my brother. Otherwise, you are not. What kind of brotherhood? What kind of oneness? What kind of coming together it is when there is an insistence? You accept my belief, you accept my God, you accept my philosophy, you accept da da da. Therefore, where on this earth is oneness? To our reason, there is no oneness anywhere, but great sages, mystics, our own Krishnaji, Ramana Maharshi, Nisarga Datta, I guess those mystics in the Sufi world also, Rumi. So many of them speak this language of absolute oneness, and in slightly different languages, they say we are not individuals. In fact, there is this statement by Krishnaji which says, I believe in a Bombay talk, 1981, In Bombay, talk number 2 in 1981, 25th January, Krishnaji addressed the audience and said, he appealed to them, please realize the truth that you are not an individual. There is no salvation for the individual. There is only salvation for man, for a human being, which you are. The entire human being, not you as an individual. There is salvation for the entire human being, not for you as an individual. You can imagine the audience in Bombay also must have, like I did now, put their hand onto their chin or to their head or to their wherever and wondered, what? We are not individuals? What is the seer who walks alone, saying? Individuality has been questioned, and we are trying to do that in this session. Upon some pondering, upon being with the teachings for a length of time, upon reflecting on the words of these exalted mystics, slowly it makes sense to us. You and I are not individuals. Yes, in a certain sense. Not on the physical sense. I am hungry and I eat a bowl full of some delicious khichdi with vegetables and everything. My hunger goes. If you and I are not separate individuals, instantly your hunger also should go. But that is a wrong application of this wisdom. Nobody says one person's hunger being satisfied will satisfy the other person's hunger. One thirsty lady drinks a liter of water. The other ladies in the hall who are also thirsty will not feel quenched. So, a lot of these teachings are not on the physical level, it's on the psychological level. Psychologically, we feel we are divided, and that division is certainly because of beliefs held, opinions held, images held in our consciousness. The separate self is born out of images, sustained by images, and when there is some inquiry, some images go, and before we realize what is happening, new images take their place. A girl who migrated at the age of 16 from Hyderabad, first to Paris, and she did a 2-year course in Paris, in Sorbonne, the famous university, considered as famous, as reputed as Oxford of England, or these days Harvard or Stanford of USA. So this girl from Hyderabad went with all patriotism. I am an Indian, I'm going abroad to gain knowledge and I'll come back. Mummy, Papa, I will be back after 2 years. But in Paris, after spending 2 years, she got to know opportunities in the Wild West. She migrated to Purdue University in Indiana, USA, did another 2 years of some sort of education, and then many changes took place, not in her body, in her mind. The same girl who was quote and unquote. I'm not saying that was right and the next belief was wrong. Or I'm not saying the first belief, I am a proud Indian, was wrong and I am an American is right. But there was a belief in her, मैं भारतीय हूँ. And after 2 years in Paris and 2 years, 3 years in USA, slowly she not only became a proud American, got citizenship and whatnot. Recently, I had a conversation with her in some matter, and I felt very uncomfortable because there was a distinct flavor in all that she spoke of looking down at India. India is a highly messed up country and whatnot. And so much of negative emotions towards this party or that party, which doesn't matter. So, psychological division. You hold on to certain opinions. And these high plateau mystics who talk about liberation, in the Vedanta text, it is about moksha. If you want moksha, that's how Ashtavakra or some Yajnavalkya would say. If you want moksha, rise above your mind. Krishnaji would not talk about moksha, but as all of you know, in his immortal speech delivered in 1929 in some place in Switzerland, he said something like, I wish to set man unconditionally free. I want to set every man unconditionally free. No wonder a whole lot of Buddhists, a whole lot of Advaita Vedantis, a whole lot of Sufi students, a whole lot of Jains and members of many other spiritual traditions, when they get a hang of what Krishnamurti is talking, are quite a bit drawn to him. Oh, yeah, this makes sense now. And that Krishnamurti says, please realize you are not an individual, shaking us at our roots. Krishnamurti is a destroyer, I tell you. Not in a bad sense. He destroys the ambitious self in us. As the elections were announced, in my mind also there was a thought, why not I enter politics? Maybe not too late. Maybe start with MLA, then slowly become MP, and you never know. One day I may become PM also. I started daydreaming. So then I picked up something from Krishnamurti. He said, man's sorrow is in wanting to become. I first thought there is some word missing. Man's sorrow is in wanting to become something. What? Become what? Become MLA, become MP, become a PM, become a software engineer, become a father of 5 children. Man's sorrow is in wanting to become what, sir? I asked Krishnamurti. I mean, the book. I asked the book. The book as though smiled at me and said, it doesn't matter how you fill up that last part. Moment you want to become the best sadhu in the town, the most detached and dispassionate monk on the Himalayas, whatever. In secular terms or spiritual terms or religious terms or in any other terms, we have a picture of what we want to become. And the sledgehammer of Krishnaji comes upon us. Your sorrow is in wanting to become. Then we say, really? And then we see how much truth there is. When I asked Kabir Jayatirtha some 10 years ago in Rajghat, Kabir ji, tell me in one sentence the essence of Krishnamurti's teachings. Of all the people who have met in my life, I never found such passion in anyone as I found in Kabir Jayatirtha. Though in some matters I disagreed with him, and even now I slightly tremble, or if I were to meet him, he is no more. But if I were to meet him, I will engage him in some argument. That's a different story. After all of us agree on some issues and disagree on some other. That's okay. But Kabir Jayatirtha said to me that fine morning on the grounds of Rajghat Education Center, if I remember right, he paused for a moment and then said, Chidanandji, in one sentence, all the teachings of Krishnamurti are summarized in be with what is. And to this day, though 10 or 12 years have passed since then, I dare not contradict Kabirji. Krishnaji was advising us with certain scientific correctness in that statement. Be with what is. Don't be charmed by what could be, what should be, what would have been. One of us, let's say I'm not talking of myself, one of us, aged 72, meets a classmate after many years, and that classmate may be a lady, retired as the chief of State Bank of India, let us say. Maybe you were a classmate of Arundhati Bhattacharya. Suppose you meet Arundhati Bhattacharya, and my classmate became the managing director of chairperson of biggest bank in the country, State Bank of India. Then a thought arises in you. If instead of going for engineering, etc., I had gone for banking, maybe I would have become the CMD of State Bank of India. I should have, etc., etc., in professional context or context of marriage, context of all contexts. You and I dream, and then we wake up. In all contexts, a man sees a woman and thinks, oh, if I had married her, my life would have been great. And he starts imagining, if I had married her, it is then that a hand comes on his shoulder, his own real wife. What are you thinking about? Nothing, nothing. Everything is fine, he says. Thinking about. In a joke, it was said, please permit me to share a joke. It seems Barack Obama said to his wife Michelle, because they met one black gentleman who was the owner of a fabulous restaurant, revolving restaurant, top of a multi-story building in Manhattan, New York. They met Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. And then, upon knowing that that owner of that restaurant was a former classmate of Michelle, Barack said to Michelle, you know what, Michelle? If you had married this man instead of me, you would have been the owner of this fabulous restaurant, revolving restaurant on top of a multi-story building. And in this joke, I don't think it was real, but Michelle says to Barack, Barack, you always get it wrong. If I had married this man, who is the owner of this enviable restaurant, he would have become the president of United States and not you. So this business of becoming and dreaming and imagining and fancying, etc., is what they call in English a wild goose chase. Once more, in the secular context or even in spiritual context, will I get enlightened in this life? How many lives will I have to take before? All that is divorced from being with what is. As you and I live in certain alertness, you and I develop that skill, if I may use the word develop, maybe that is technically wrong, because you can't, I guess, develop, you can't, I guess, cultivate, you can't, I guess, learn, you can't. When they asked Krishnaji, what is the way to attention? He said, attention is the way to attention. That can be a topic on another day. The way to attention. Attention is the way to attention. Not some pranayama, not some standing upside down, not some technique. Attention is the way to attention, he said. Therefore, hesitantly I use the expression, if you and I were to develop awareness, alertness, watching, then before the thought grows big, becomes a dream, becomes a fancy, and much fueled by that fancy, we go through pleasure, pain, we get angry with somebody else, we envious of someone else who reached where we wanted to reach, etc., etc. Now, coming back to the topic proper, that is where this individuality becomes or comes across or seems to be solid reality. When we are with what is, one by one, concepts, beliefs, images drop off. And when images and concepts, ideas, I am successful, I am a Christian, I am a very educated person from the West, I am so many ideas, I am this, I am that, unless warranted in a certain situation, do not raise their ugly head at all. So when self-descriptions, they are called I thoughts. When self-descriptions, I-thought, a thought that describes oneself is an I thought. When I thought doesn't raise its ugly head, where is individuality? You and I sit and are watching a sunset, let us say. We both are enjoying the sunset. We don't have thoughts who among us is richer and who among us is poorer, who among is well known in the town and who among is somebody whom nobody knows. Where are those thoughts? And who is asking? Unnecessarily the mind raises issues. Mind raises, props up ideas of who we are and all that. It's all noise, it's all chatter of the mind. A few months ago, a young man who spent last 15 years in Thiruvannamalai, Ramana Maharshi place, around, not in the ashram. After all those 12 or 15 years, with some savings, he bought a flat. He will continue to live in that so-called holy place of Thiruvannamalai. A good friend of us, in fact, he was very devoted to Krishnamurti also, very much. 8 nights he slept in that flat. On the 8th night, he had a massive heart attack. He was just 54 or something. Gone. That's what happens to so many of our fancies and dreams and I want to become this, I want to reach there, I want to have that kind of car and this kind of bungalow. I want to be this and so on. What is this I? Who is this I? Even if you get that bungalow with a big swimming pool behind and that Porsche or some car is parked in front, etc., etc. One day, like it happened to that young man, to go, everything is closed. So we are not trying to be pessimistic here, but all this wisdom draws our attention to certain facts of life. in true wisdom unless the situation warrants. There are times like at the airport, you are flying to Singapore, let us say, they ask you, what's your citizenship? There you can't say, I have no citizenship, I am not an individual. I am the all pervasive awareness, I am in you, you are in me. Then you can't board the flight. There you will have to say, I am an Indian citizen, sir. Take a look at my passport and please permit me to go further. It's already getting late for me to board the flight. Right? So there are situations where you got to tell people you are a PhD in biology, you are a mother of two children. There are times when it situation warrants. Otherwise, a self-description is uncalled for. Watching the sunrise or the sunset, or you don't need the sun or moon anywhere. Watching what is, you can be the quiet witness. In that quiet witnesshood, there is no individuality. Therefore, without going very long on this, let me say that when we ponder these beautiful teachings, it begins to make sense to us that this individuality with which we are so obsessed, we are possessed of this individuality is propped up by memories, beliefs, and all sorts of things. Otherwise, in the flame of attention, it cannot survive. The flame of attention burns all the residues of hurt or pride, envy, or whatever. That's what the language Krishnamurti uses, the flame of attention. Therefore, questioning our individuality, especially with that judgment, I'm good or bad, I look nice or not, do I'm a nice person. Do you think sometimes people very eager to ask a friend, you know me for last 7 years, what kind of person am I? Can you tell me? Be frank, huh? And all that.
Sir, voice is not coming.
Voice is not coming?
Yeah.
I think it's a temporary internet issue.
Okay.
Is it coming okay now?
Yeah, okay, coming.
Ah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm almost done. Therefore, it's good enough if I say, if we see the questionable nature of our individuality, that itself is quite a lot, I guess. Let me pause here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for this lecture. Harshad sir, would you please continue to say something on the subject? Harshad Parekh sir.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you, Swamiji. You have said with many examples also that this word individuality has two meanings and they are exactly opposite to each other. Normally, when we think about individuality, it means that I am separate. I am an individual. But the root meaning of the word is that one who is not divided, that the person who doesn't have the sense of I or me, that is the individual, not divided, not having a sense of I and you, that kind of separateness. So they have exactly opposite meaning, the same word. And Krishnaji sometimes uses the word individuality in the sense of wholeness, that you are not a separate human being. Now, many mystics had that experience of oneness. Even Krishnaji had in 1922, and Buddha had that experience 2,500 years ago. And in between, many people, many mystics have felt that they are not separate from the world, and they have spoken about it, they have written about it, and we have also the philosophy of Upanishad that Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvam Asi, that all indicates a sense of wholeness, not separateness, but our experience in our daily life is the one of separateness because we are living mostly with knowledge, memory, thinking, and from the thinking, the idea coming that I am separate. Physically, we are separate, no doubt. And that also creates probably that psychologically also I am separate. And as long as we are living in thinking and feeling, and out of that, this idea comes that me separate, and it comes at a very young age, even when the child gets attached to the mother, that sense of separateness comes, that my mother is different than other uh, women like that. So this is our daily experience of separateness. But maybe once in a while, when our mind becomes very silent in meditation, we don't know that we are separate. At the same time, we don't know that we are the whole. We don't say, but there is a feeling of being nothing. And that nothing is not everything, not it is a thing. So we are sometimes in the meditation state, we don't know who we are, like our name and our relationship, everything is forgotten. But it is not a permanent state. And probably even in the life of Krishnamurti, when he writes in his notebook, it seems that something was coming and going, that sense of wholeness. And he was asking sometimes people, do you feel it? There was something in the room which was something different. So mystics, they do have experiences, but I don't think it could be a continuous experience of being one, because our living, our life depends on being separate. And yes, one can be a very good human being. One cannot have jealousy or loneliness or boredom or all the problems which are coming from thinking, and from the thinking coming that sense of I or me. That me can be absent sometimes. And at that time, there are no problems, no division, not even wholeness also. But in between state, many of us can feel time to time that we are not separate. Though we don't say it, but we feel it. We don't feel that we are separate. So we are related to everything around us. Whatever other people think, it comes in a kind of a wave. And our thoughts affect each other, like a thought goes like a wave. And even quantum physics says that we are all related. And even Buddha said that our consciousness is the consciousness of mankind. Though we may think that we are separate, but everything is like we are living in a ocean of thoughts and feelings, and whatever somebody may think about you, it may come to you sometimes. So we get affected by what is happening, even when we read something happening in New Delhi or somewhere in New York, and when we listen some news, it affects. So everything is affecting, and we are living in such an ocean of thoughts and feelings, and that is our normal experience. But once in a while, when the mind is silent and not thinking, no feeling of separateness exists, and that is possible. So I've said enough right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chidanandji, a few words from your end. Chidanandji, few words from your end. Would you please?
A few, I didn't hear properly. Oh, okay. No, I think Harshad ji started so well. The same word individual has opposite meanings. And he also made a mention of how all this advanced physics, whether it's quantum physics or any other, also points to the falsity of separateness and so on. They talk about interconnectedness. Just the other day, somebody met me in Mumbai and asked, saying he is much inspired by Krishnamurti and similar seers, but he said, then what is the way ahead? What do we do? What should I do now, being so inspired? And it's on the spot, I just said to him, take short paragraphs which seem to you to be very mind-boggling, which seem to you to be very appealing, and dwell on them. So what Harshadji shared and what I also attempted to present are some of these mind-boggling, very fascinating revelations which normally do not occur to us. 1 in 1,000 talks of the falsity of the separate self. And then there are 999 out of the 1,000 who constantly try to strengthen our divided existence. And they will tell us, never forget you are this, you are that. Never forget who your grandfather was or grandmother was. 999 rub it in us so that we become more attached to a particular description. 1 in 1,000 says, question it all. So there is a need for a very fine balance between
No voice again.
Voice is not coming, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I get even a message on my screen. Your internet connection is unstable, it says. Is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's some variation. So all I can share with you at this moment is some of these insights are worth pondering, and as we dwell on them more and more in a very intense manner, in a sincere manner, not for writing an article or giving a speech, but just for examining the truth of them, they can make a very big difference to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Pradeep ji. Pradeep ji, unmute and say.
It's unmuted. I think you can audible.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Swamiji and Harshad Bhai. They have covered most of it. A part of what I'll be telling maybe repetition, but differently. Because the topic is questioning individuality. To my seeing, nobody questions individuality. Nobody questions. Then we start with the same thing, what is, and Swamiji talked about the sufferings associated with when the what is not bothered about, and what should be becomes important in someone's life. That also is clear. Now, what is remains the same even after when JK said it, 70s, 80s, whatever, almost 80 years back. So practically, we all live our entire lives as individuals only, struggling and enjoying differently, even in a family or friend circle, religious organizations, or educational and vocational institutions, not only in India, but globally. This is what is. That's why we are trying to emphasize, we are emphasizing time and again a situation which we may not like to put it in the category of should be, because JK said it. So what is till today has remained the same. Now, why are we discussing this issue of individuality? Because JK the seer said it emphatically that you are the world. Even you are the universe by Deepak Chopra. Incorporating the latest advances in theoretical physics and quantum mechanics, etc., and depth psychology. Similarly, similar expressions we find in Mahavakyas, you are that, Aham Brahmasmi, etc. What is all of us can see what is, all of us can see right now in our lives. This is one thing which can never be debated. We talk of Brahma, but when we say Anna hai Purna Brahma, nobody will debate it because Anna is the most important thing. You see, so this truth is realized by all the living beings, not only man. Everything else is secondary, and because every brain needs nutrition, Jivasya Bhojanam is another related thing. It's a fact, cannot be debated. Very close to that. The question is when, where and when originates individuality? Where and when originates individuality? Our different views indicate our individuality. Now here itself, you will see how we all take the same title in differently based on our conditionings. So when he wanted to set everyone unconditionally free, but can we be free with conditions? Obviously not, based on that. So, but the individuality, if we take individuality as an integral part of whole, we are individual as well as collective. But when we are emphasizing specifically about something, we are trying to tilt the balance from what is to what should be. This is what I feel even now. So these are certain points. Whether the entire knowledge related to what JK said or what Raman Maharshi said, of what Mahavakyas are. At certain level, when everything is connected to every other thing, physics knows it very clearly. So where is the question that way? How can one be individual? Right? But the way we are living in this world, day-to-day living, based on food, shelter, clothing, three essential things, and the entire fight, entire individuality is around these three things in major. Of course, some people, even then, thousands of years back, even now, they know that what he is telling is correct. But while living, what happens? What happens? Why do we get anger? Why do we get jealousy? Why do we get this thing? It is easy to say, to get votes, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But within Kutumb, do you see the difference? The game of individuality within Kutumb, actual Kutumb, and with neighbors, this is what is. So that realization comes beyond survival, If we are well fed, we are well educated, we know English, we know these some more languages which he was very quite competent. JK used to speak French, a number of languages. But to realize this day-to-day basis, moment-to-moment basis, you see the difference when Swamiji was talking about the sunset when three persons are enjoying. No, sir, they can never enjoy the same way. One has a ouch feeling, one has oh, what is different feelings, different expressions. One would like to give as much time as possible, and another person says, "What is there? It's okay. You have seen it, now. I have also seen." So what that sun means to an individual, I am again using that word, but that still plays a great role in arts, in sciences, in all the development activities. So we have to, because ideally this is there, but what is what I have told you, I have shared with you. This is what is, and it continues to be what is. My mind starts working only after getting proper nutrition. Rest is all secondary, tertiary concept, perception, of course, is quite clear that way what you see right now. Without thinking, you can definitely, I can see without thinking. But when we discuss, when we express in words, then things become very different. Then different people take different words and like different words and express it differently, maybe repeating the same thing again and again. This is what is, to me, thank you, I have taken much more than what was required to an individual to talk so much. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you.
Waghmare, please unmute and say.
Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Are we really not individual? We have to check up whether we are individual or not. Already time is less, so I will just directly start. First, we have to understand what JK has to say, and then we will see. Have we understood what he has to say? The concept of, JK says, the concept of individuality is illusory. Concept of individuality is illusory. Concept, word. We are human beings first. I am not an Indian, you are not an American, but the human being is denied when individuality becomes more important. One must question deeply whether you are an individual at all. You are the result of your parents. Psychologically, genetically, you have inherited certain conditions. According to religion, you are separate soul. So your action is individualistic. But is that so? Are you not result of vast time, great evolution, inherited experiences of thousands of people? Are you not result of education, information about various subjects which you use skillfully or not? You are conditioned to be a Christian or Hindu through years of propaganda. So when you begin to see seriously whether you are actually an individual, you begin to doubt this whole idea of individuality. Individuality apparently means, apparently, you please note the word apparently. Individuality apparently means freedom, that is freedom, freedom of choice. Individuality apparently means freedom, that is freedom, freedom of choice. But the choice is to move from one corner of the same field to another corner, means in the horizontal plane, what he means to say. So one question basically, if you are an individual at all, you have been told that you are an individual, a separate human being, because you have a separate body, a separate name, and so on. From the physical, we move into the psychological, which becomes individual soul. I question all that because your consciousness is more or less similar to the rest of the mankind. So you are not an individual. We are not individual at all. We are the result of the collective. You are the result of your society, etc. And to think that you are an individual is really quite absurd. So he is going in favor of individuality here. If you go very deeply into the matter, essentially deep down, the totality of the mind is conditioned by the society in which you have been brought up. Consciousness forms its own continuity as an individuality through the action of ignorance and clings with desperate craving to this identification. What is that? Something to which each one clings, hoping
Frozen.
Prasad Mulupuri. Prasad, please unmute and say.
Prasad sir, you can say something.
Okay. Yes, sir. Can I?
Yeah, we are hearing you. Please go on.
Yes, sir. Sir, firstly, I want to thank Harshad ji for his clarification that the word individual has two meanings and there are two opposite meanings. Actually, Swamiji has also appreciated that point. In one sense, our secular life depends entirely on one meaning, that is, that individual is separate. He is not connected with others. I mean, he is separate and he is individual and he has certain rights and duties. Even Constitution talks of those individual rights and duties. Without that, and Pradeep ji has also made a wonderful contribution in the sense that he said this individual rights all depend upon, they revolve around. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm getting this echo. I am in.
Why is he echoing?
I am here. I am hearing my own voice. I don't know. Sir, Pradeep ji has said it all revolves around man's need for food, clothing, and shelter. I mean, if I am not an individual and I don't have a house, that is a very difficult problem. Similarly, about food and clothing and all that. So, we are individuals in a very gross sense, in a secular sense. Instead of using the word gross, we can use the word secular sense. And apart from these legal rights and duties and things like that, what creates this sense of individuality? What creates the sense of individuality is mostly our ego. Our ego being our past. Our past, our tradition, everything, our culture, our education, all these things are our ego, and they establish our sense of individuality. They create our sense of individuality. What makes this difference between a Muslim and a Hindu? It is his background and it is my background. Our backgrounds differ, and that creates this sense of separation. We can go on talking about these factors which create this sense of separation. Swamiji also was referring to gender, language, religion, all these things. It is this ego in a person that creates this sense of individuality, establishes. Why we cannot work together? Why cooperation is so difficult? That is because of our egos. That is, we feel we are separate from each other, we are individuals, and if I get my promotion, if you get your promotion, I cannot get my promotion. So I envy you, I am jealous of you, and all these things. It all comes into play because of the ego. Your competition in love affairs also. I love a girl and you love the same girl and we fight. Things like that. So many things we can. And it is when we get out of this ego, then there is peace. There is no peace till you get rid of this ego. And when the ego subsides, you find connectivity. Then you realize, possibly, that is what Krishnaji says, when the self is not, the other is. Self is being is the ego. When that is not there, the other is. And when the other is, there is connectivity. Then you realize that you are not separate from others. And that you share something with them. Otherwise, you keep on fighting only. And the world is full of fights, all because of the ego, and we don't realize it. And the tradition also is a factor of separation, actually. But we hang on to it. We think it is something very, very great. And the moment somebody questions a tradition, the other person is there, not, shaking his head. So, until we realize that we are egoistic, we are egoistic in so many different ways. Until we realize them, sometimes, you have bad experiences as a child or a boy and all that. Your boyhood that creates its ripple effect in your manhood also. So like that, we are individuals at a very basic level, but actually we are all connected. And we will realize that only when we realize what is ego, what is its play, how it comes into effect in our lives. I think Swamiji was talking of becoming also. Yes, it is a becoming anything. That itself creates that sense of separation. I want to become something, you want to become something else. Like that. Thank you, sir. I think I have taken a lot of time. Thank you.
Last words from you. Chidanandji, last words from you.
Yeah. So, pretty much all of us have been analyzing this topic with a lot of coherence. Nobody is opposing somebody else's view, but in their own way, they have added a different flavor. And I have been listening very carefully. And I think everyone has acknowledged the transactional, functional side of individuality. We have a body, the body needs certain conveniences, comforts, a house, food, clothes. And in fact, I think it doesn't remain limited to the body. Even on the mental plane, certain emotional needs are universal. So it's a very difficult task, I guess, to draw a line between genuine human emotional needs and overly projected emotional requirements. What I mean is, you and I, every one of us, we look for some affection, some love, some kind of treatment. Even great mystics we see in their life, they just go away from a place when more and more people misunderstand them. They leave the place and go. And then they settle at some place where more and more people appreciate what they have got to say. More and more people surround them, wanting to listen more to them, gain their knowledge. Then they settle there. So it shows that not only physical needs, certain essential emotional needs are on one side, we cannot deny them, but a whole lot of non-essential emotional needs. Like, I not only want you to come and say to me, I am a nice person. I want you to say that there is nobody else who is so nice as I am. I want you to say that all others are crooks in the town and I am the only nice person. Then I am so happy. That is where I give, of course, a very exaggerated example. But if we develop an ability to, as they say, separate the grain from the chaff, we realize where we are unrealistic, where we are greedy, and those are the expressions of the false self. Otherwise, once more, not only bodily, but emotionally, intellectually. Let me say this and conclude. Emotional, intellectual needs also. Suppose we want to associate with some place, institution, or a group of people where nobody has, interest in some of these teachings. With all due respect to them, we feel like moving away because we need on our own level. We are all on different levels. We need some intellectual companionship, emotional companionship, physical being together, and so on. In our country, whether knowingly or unknowingly, couples used to put up with each other because those days. But now they are very westernized, and at the drop of a hat, couples are ready to divorce also. So things are changing. And which is a better system, we do not know. But I remember more than 40 years ago, I met one couple. The husband is an excellent speaker, philosopher. He could discuss on any matter. And we had a dinner with him in a small town in Karnataka. And the wife, who also came to the dinner to a nice restaurant, she had nothing to say. Only she used to smile in between. That's all. So after on our way back, when the couple went their way, we went to our homes. Myself and my cousin and others were discussing. What a strange couple. The husband is so wise, so articulate, so philosophical, so intellectual, can talk on any topic on the earth. The wife has nothing to say or nothing to. Then I remember, let me complete with that. My cousins who knew that couple so closely in that small town, they said, yeah, actually, the husband has some pain about it, his wife not being available for any discussion. But from the beginning, he has adjusted. Because she is a good wife otherwise, but no intellectual companionship. Then I thought, even now I think that there used to be a lot of such couples, I guess. Nowadays, I'm afraid people are more demanding. And they say the Western individualism, generally it is said, maybe we can discuss some other time, is the West so individualistic? I, me, and my. You must match me in everything. Then only we are together. Otherwise, let us part. So can't say really the human mind is the same. So that's what I can share. Thank you again.
Adeen,
Can I
Adeen.
continue, sir?
Adeen, no, sir. Adeen, I am asking Adeen to say something, not you.
Okay.
Because I have not completed my whole
No,
this thing.
no. Please let Adeen say something. Please.
Okay, I won't take so much time. So I had a few questions I wanted to pose. So like today we were talking about individuality. So the question I had, what is the relationship between somebody and nobody? That was the question which came to my mind. So is there any relationship at all between somebody and nobody, or there is no relationship at all? And the reason I asked this question is because I'm asking the question, what is the relationship between thought and silence? Is there any relationship between the two or not? I'm not asking theoretically this question because this question has been in my mind for a very long time. And even in the case study centers, Krishnamurti study centers, I posed this question, but I have not, no one has answered it. And I've always had the impression that one wants to bring the two together, thought and silence, somehow. that you continue with thought and you also in silence and you continue being somebody and you also want the nobody. So this is a question: what is the relationship between somebody and nobody? What is the relationship between thought and silence, or there is no connection between the two? Yeah.
Harshad Parekh sir, would you please answer this? Harshad Parekh. Harshad Parekh.
Okay. Yes. This question about the relationship between somebody and nobody. Somebody means a person who has a sense of separateness, ego. And nobody, it means a person has no ego, maybe as Adeen said, a kind of a silent mind. So I feel that people who have silent mind, very awake, they are related to nature, to human beings. It may be a non-verbal relationship, but people who have an ego, somebody, they are enclosed in their own thinking and they have no relationship. So nobody has a relationship to somebody, but the somebody doesn't have relationship to nobody. And somebody doesn't have relationship to anybody. That is one thing. And the other thing which I like, some noise coming. Some noise coming. Okay. Yes. About uh, indivisible. In that is the meaning, one meaning, indivisible. Individual means indivisible. That means whole. And that is probably a kind of ideal in spirituality, that one must be free and having no sense of me, what Adin said, having silence, having sense of nobody. But that can happen to some human beings once in a while when their mind becomes very, very silent and not thinking and looking everything fresh. So that is not a mystical experience. But some people have mystical experiences of seeing everything as one, and they have described it in words. And maybe I think that is due to certain changes happening, chemical changes happening in the brain, just like when people take some drugs, they begin to see what is real as something fantastic, a different kind of. And some people who had such experiences, some mystical experiences, they had come to Krishnaji to discuss about such experiences. And Krishnamurti said that you had that experience. Now, why you are carrying it on? Do you have it now? Because what is happening now is more important than what experience, even the experience of wholeness or having no division, it has no meaning because it is already gone. But your daily life, how you live without problems of jealousy, anger, loneliness, violence, all that is more important, I feel. And that is a more spiritual life than having mystical experience of no division. Okay, I have finished. Thank you.
Sravan, do you wanted to say? Sravan sir, please. You are writing it on the note. Would you please say something? Okay.
Are you able to hear, sir?
Yeah, play. I am asking you. You are writing on note. Why don't you explain that, please? Mary.
Sir asked about silence and thought. What is the relationship between silence and thought?
Yeah.
When a person reaches to the level of silence, so the thoughts from the silence is always new. So, because it is always new, so it will not produce any residue. So the thought which is coming out of the silence will be exactly what is required to the exact situation that is required there. So there will be right action. So thought and silence exact relation is always all the time it is new. That is the relationship. So that's all, sir. I don't want to much explain.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Waghmare, please come forward.
Thank you, Jain Saab, for giving me time. I wanted to point out very important point, but unfortunately there was some problem and then you have not given me the time. Anyway, basically it seems that people have not gone deep into the Krishnamurti and they have not seen the exact meaning of individuality, what he has said. Anyway, first he has talked about if you see the whole of the exhaustively the Krishnamurti literature, then you will find that he has talked about individuality in the three parts. First part is the superficial individuality, which is made up of the collective influences, right? Second part he has said about the peculiarities or the you can say that that is the real individuality he has talked, and then beyond that. So he has talked about the three things. I was just pointing out how he has moved from first to second. So let us continue with that. The consciousness is what he said. The influence of the outside or collective consciousness is influenced you. Outside consciousness influenced you, and your consciousness is composed of many layers of memories which come into being or remain present when there is ignorance. Where there is ignorance, basically, craving, want, tendency in any form must create conflict between itself and that which provokes it. That is the object of want. This conflict between craving and the object craven appears in consciousness as individuality, right? So here he is explaining how the I process has taken place. The I process that seeks to perpetuate itself is nothing but accumulated craving. This accumulation and its memories make up individuality. As long as we are conditioned by environment, we are not really individual. So final sentence is, as long as we are conditioned by the environment, we are not really individual. There is individuality only when we can go beyond this conditioning. There is individuality only when we can go beyond this conditioning. So he is not denying individuality, right? What he says further, to be aware of such conditioning and to break through the encrustation of centuries of the past, it is that quality, that intensity, that understanding brings about individuality. And it is only individual, very important statement given by JK, and it is only individual that can find out what is real, not the collective. So the individual gets moksha, that is correct, not the collective gets moksha or freedom, in JK's words. This is very clear. Individuality, further he says, individuality is a state of creativeness, a state of aloneness, in which there is freedom from the conditioning influences of desire. So he has said many things, but now I have covered it in my own way, that individuality consists of your psychological traits, parameters, tendencies, your interests and hobbies, your talents and skills, your desires and wants, your quality, virtues and vices, your peculiarity, etc. JK also said that one has to tackle his individuality if one has to be free. Actually, what happens, there are two parts of it. One part is influence of collective consciousness. That influences your individuality. Individuality is consisted by your peculiarities, your parameter tendencies, which are, for that he has used the word unique, your uniqueness. JK has used the word uniqueness. So your uniqueness, individual is your uniqueness. Actually, individuality is uniqueness, and you have to be free from that also. So first you have to be free from the collective consciousness in self-knowing, and then you have to be free from your, then you will understand what is your really individuality, and then you will be free from that creation part and all that. In that state you will be, because of intelligence, you will be also creating. You will be creative for many things, and then you will be free from that also, and then you can go beyond. That's what he has said. So this also covers the Adeen's question, that what is the relation. Relation is, one has to understand, there is, you are peculiar also, or individual also, and you are collective also. Now, how much portion you have absorbed in your memory as a collective consciousness, and what are your peculiarities, or what are your tendencies which are unique, or what are your interests and hobbies which clearly makes you different from the others, that you have to see. So this will give you the wisdom, and then afterwards you can proceed further. Thank you. Harshad Parekh, what do you have to say, sir?
Prasad Parekh, please end it. Only 1 minute.
No, I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Please end it. Modak, please end it.